Shmai. Hello. My name is Bernadette Vallely. I'm a writer and I'm an animal protector and defender. I want to talk to you today about the animal kingdom and some of our feelings about them and how that allows our lack of compassion and abuse of animals to continue. We do believe, I think, in Britain that we are a nation of animal lovers. We have lots of pets, 26% of our households have pets, and we have about 9 million dogs in this country. We would never dream of hurting our pets. We love them, we feed them properly, we adore them, and they become treasured friends. They offer healing, an excuse to go out and take exercise. So many valuable and positive things happen to human beings who have a relationship with animals, and they are much beloved by many, many people. Unfortunately, that image of ourselves and our day-to-day personal interaction with our animals is not the same as our relationship to the other animals, most of the animals that we use in an industrial scale today. Intensive farming is a process that is overpowering and overwhelming our ecosystems. We have sprayed so many pesticides and chemicals. We are killing off all the insects and the birds that rely on the ecosystem to continue. It's alarming, and it's what biologists are calling the 6th mass extinction of animals. Our industrial farming is causing a great spraying of chemicals and pesticides, which is causing further the animals that rely on slugs or snails as food, including birds, to get sick and poisoned, and their children get sick and poisoned. We lose so many habitats of our animals. The taking up of those hedgerows in order to make bigger farms is an example, and one of the most disastrous policies of modern agricultural farming. So many animals and species, from the tiniest insect to the largest birds or hedgerow mammals, are lost. The industrial farming itself is also cruel to animals. The pigs, sheep and cows, some of them are kept in warehouses and never see the light of day. And those that are allowed out and that do farm freely and roam freely, more freely, are often happier animals, of course. An example of us thinking of out of sight, out of mind is the beauty industry. We go into a shop and we see shimmery eyeshadow and never think that that's actually crushed up beetles or macerated insects. The same with bright red lipstick. A lot of these industries need the animal products, and they use everything really. Keratin is the horns and the claws of animals. Gelatin, isn't it? The ligaments, the bones of animals. There's tallow, which is melted fat from animals, from their bones. And then there's, of course, urea, which is urine. All those products are used in beauty products. And there's things like lanolin to help make creams soft. We're using animals on such a vast scale and creating them for our use that they don't have an opportunity to just be anymore. They're fighting for their survival out there in the wilderness. We also believe it's always been that way, as if we've always killed animals. I've heard people saying that. And yes, we have. Our ancestors relied on killing animals, and I'd like to say and remind you that our ancestors were vastly more spiritual than us in a way, because they had a spiritual relationship with the animal they killed. They would never kill and waste an animal, they used every part of it. But they also would take a moment to pray for that animal in some way, some form of ritual, and the entire community would be fed. The rest of the herd would be allowed to leave or to get away. And that feeling that you should only kill what you need, obviously with industrial farming, has no value. We do throw away huge amounts of processed meats and foods and made foods from our supermarkets because of sell-by dates and similar. We also have thought that our landscape has always been this way, but we've damaged our landscape beyond recognition, really. We have in the UK the worst forestry, the worst land use, the smallest amount of woodlands of any country in Europe. We haven't preserved our woodlands and looked after them or honoured them and realised that they are incredible ecosystems in their own right. And that abuse of our woodlands and our trees in the millions every year has caused terrible problems for all smaller species that rely on the woodlands as their habitats, their homes. We've believed that animals are a commodity for us, a resource, something that we have to channel in a certain way and then use in order to create and make money. And animals have no rights or say in what happens to them, which is incredibly sad. In the fashion industry, what was once a necessity in terms of keeping warm with fur, for example, is no longer. And yet the fashion industry, the jewellery industries have been using animal byproducts and animal products as a core part of their industry. And again, nowadays it's on an industrial scale, so it's vast and it's dangerous. We also have a mental problem with certain animals that have allowed our understanding of them to continue. So, for example, many people are afraid of insects, ants, bees, wasps, spiders, hoverflies, all sorts of small creatures that do them no harm or almost no harm. There's a disproportionate amount of fear, revulsion, panic. We swat them away, people scream, they run around the house. Animals cause a reaction in humans if a human being wants their house to be sanitized and doesn't allow or give space for anything living in that household. And that's a problem because we cannot really sanitize biology. We need to allow the spiders to exist because they eat the flies, as an example. But we don't allow that ecosystem, which is natural, to continue if we are interfering with our fear or our revulsion or our panic and horror about animals and how they affect us. We've created sterile environments for so many things that we've forgotten that bacteria is normal and important for us to survive. One simple example is the amount of times we sanitize our hands these days, and yet the bacteria on our hands needs to exist. We need bacteria as human beings in order to be healthy. We cannot sanitize our way out of the animal kingdom, no. We must adopt a new understanding and a compassion and a way of living with the animal kingdom, where we allow them to be. We have incarcerated animals for our pleasure, to oogle them in zoos and at circuses. We have been cruel, and in our past, and even today in the future. The ravens in the Tower of London. There's been ravens in the tower since Charles II's time, and they were brought in to create a macabre atmosphere. But the truth is, they're only there now for the tourists, and yet their wings are clipped. They can't fly away, and they're kept in very small cages. Ravens are big birds. They get married. They have a partner for life. And for tourism, we're clipping their wings. It doesn't seem fair or progressive to do that. We cannot replace the bee or the earthworm, the spider, the dolphin. We'll never replace animals. So we must learn not just to live with them, but we must resolve to protect them and to do what we can to make it easier for species to exist and to recognize their importance. How can we do that? Well, we can have more compassion for animals. We can do simple things that actually would make a big difference. For the song thrush, it means putting a bell on your cat. That would solve or save a third of the song thrush's deaths each year. Stop letting your cat go out around the time of dusk or dawn, which is when the birds are feeding, and give the birds a bit of space to have their food. Your cat is probably very well fed. What else can we do? We can have a wild area in the garden that includes logs or fallen trees or something that's old and decaying, so that insects especially can go and lay their eggs, and they can hide, and mammals, small mammals, can burrow and hide in the winter time. It's really important that you don't sanitize your garden in the same way that you're sanitizing your bathroom or kitchen. Your garden needs a bit of wilderness, and for some creatures, your garden, however urban, might be all that they have. You can protect and become an advocate for animals, join groups, sign petitions, support animals. Stop buying products that are toxic or that have animal products inside them. So look for lanolin or urea. Look for the labels and really get to know what it is that you're buying. Protect and encourage insects in every way. That includes supporting bees, anything to do with supporting bees. If you plant red clover, that's a very good species to have in your garden, lawns. Even quite stony areas can grow red clover successfully. And that's a brilliant species of plant which is loved by the shrill carder bee, a very important bee to Wales and to small areas now in the rest of the UK. What else can you do? Be beautiful without killing, and be beautiful without needing to put crushed up animals, macerated animals all over your face. See if you can do it without. And there are plenty of brilliant businesses and all sorts of people who have made cruelty-free, vegan, animal-free, toxic-free, pesticide-free products. The protection of wetlands and woodlands and marshlands and wild areas in your local environment is very important. and you might need to see your council plan or your parish council plan and see what kind of developments are thought of, and make sure that your town, your village, your city isn't developing over the only small spaces that are left. Dolphins are endangered because of overfishing, and really you can only support that by eating less fish yourself. And if you do eat tuna, only ever eating dolphin-free tuna. You can support successful conservation projects, of which there are plenty, and endangered species can be turned around. An example is the leatherback turtle. It's seen in recent years a 980% increase in its numbers because of successful conservation programs, closing certain beaches for only the few weeks of the year where those turtles scurry through the beaches and try and get to the ocean. So we've increased the numbers, and the same can be said for whales. In the 1960s, there were only 450 orca whales, and we thought that they would be destroyed forever. And conservation programs and pressure on those countries that were carrying out whaling was supported by small and large organisations across the world, and it meant that the International Whaling Commission had to do proper work, and they stopped the whaling in such numbers, and now we have 25,000 whales. You can see that it is our choice to work with animals and to live with animals in a more compassionate and sustainable way. I'm talking because I think we need a clearer understanding about what we're doing and more compassion for those animals that are already extinct, and more urgency about the programs that we produce in order to support them for the future. Thank you for listening.